Hello and welcome to Haunted Montreal's Spooky Story Sessions. I'm your host, Holly Rhiannon, and today I'm going to tell you all about the Dawson Site. With over 200 documented ghost stories, Montreal is easily the most haunted city in Canada, if not all of North America. Haunted Montreal is dedicated to researching these paranormal tales, and our channel brings you videos in both French and English every second Saturday. Today's episode examines the Dawson Site, the location of Montreal's first archaeological dig, which took place in 1859. The site conjures forth a classic trope of haunted tales, remnants of an ancient Indigenous city, including burial grounds. To this day, road workers discover evidence of this mysterious and ancestral place when digging in the downtown area south of McGill University, leading many who are in the know to speculate that the area is haunted by its troubled past. But before we get into today's story, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button so you get notified every time we have a new story to share. And hey, if you're already subscribed, thank you so much. Welcome back. We're happy to see you again. Now, without further ado, let's get spooky. For those familiar with horror novels and movies, there is a common trope that it is never a good idea to build upon ancient Indigenous burial grounds. Unfortunately, for the city of Montreal, a large section of its downtown core exists on the site of a former Indigenous city and cemetery, resulting in all sorts of speculation that the modern city is haunted. Furthermore, since remnants of the Indigenous city were unearthed in 1859 on the corner of today's Metcalfe and de Maisonneuve streets, a debate has raged on among scholars of European ancestry about whether or not it is the site of the fabled lost city of Hochelaga, visited by French explorer Jacques Cartier in 1535. While historians and archaeologists have long argued about the meaning and significance of this lost, invisible city, Indigenous elders from the Kanien'kehá:ka or Mohawk First Nation have a much clearer picture. Their understanding of the ancient civilization that lurks just beneath downtown Montreal is based on thousands of years of history in their ancestral territory of Tiohtià:ke, whereas the research carried out by European-focused scholars uses Jacques Cartier's visit as a starting point for their theories. Jacques Cartier's description of his visit to the island is documented in the wordily titled Short and Succinct Narrative of Navigation to the Islands of Canada, Hochelaga, and Saguenay, and others, including particular customs, languages, and ceremonies of the islanders. Very delightful to see. Short and succinct indeed. In the text, Cartier documents his visit to today's Montreal island. Cartier was exploring the St. Lawrence River and arrived on the island on October 2nd, 1535. Cartier writes of an Indigenous city, which he calls Hochelaga, with thousands of residents surrounded by expansive cornfields at the base of a large mountain. The fortified city contained at least 50 bark-covered longhouses and was surrounded by 3 rows of wooden palisades. Cartier and his men were met by the city's residents at a fire near the wood's edge where they exchanged gifts before proceeding to a welcome ceremony inside the city itself. After his brief visit, lasting a little over a day, Cartier and his men began the journey back upriver on October 4th, worried about the upcoming winter. When the French returned to the island some years later, the Indigenous city Cartier had called Hochelaga was no longer there. According to Mohawk elders, the city's residents had retreated south to the Mohawk Valley to reorganize due to epidemic diseases and warfare brought on by French colonization. In 1642, the Society of Notre Dame of Montreal for the Conversion of Savages of New France, yes really, founded the French colony of Ville-Marie on the island, despite warnings from the governor in Quebec City that it was Iroquois or Haudenosaunee territory. In response, the leader, Sieur de Maisonneuve, stated, "It is an honor to accomplish my mission, even if all the trees of the island of Montreal should change into as many Iroquois." Needless to say, the following year, when the Kanien'kehá:ka First Nation learned that their territory had been colonized by Europeans, a brutal and lengthy war erupted. When the French colonists began to lose, the Carignan-Salière Regiment was brought in from France to launch genocidal scorched earth campaigns whereby they located and burned down several Kanien'kehá:ka villages. The brutal war lasted on and off until 1701, when the Great Peace of Montreal was signed. With peace secured, the colony of Ville Marie was able to continue growing on unceded Kanien'kehá:ka territory. When the British took over the city in 1760, they chose Montreal as its official name. Under the British regime, the French colony was transformed into a booming city, business hub, and financial center. It began to expand very quickly. In 1859, workers began building houses in a sandy area on the corner of Metcalfe and Burnside, today's Maisonneuve streets. As they worked, they began unearthing remnants of skeletons, fire pits, tools, pottery, longhouse posts, and other evidence that an Indigenous city was formerly located on the site. One particularly famous artifact is called the Hochelaga skull, an Indigenous cranium that was studied by Eurocentric scientists and reported in books such as Prehistoric Man: Researches into the Origin of Civilization in the Old and New World, Volume 2. At this time, William Dawson, a scientist and geologist, was director of McGill College. Dawson examined the sandy area located between Sherbrooke and Burnside and Metcalfe and Mansfield streets and concluded that it once hosted the village of Hochelaga. In 1860, near this same spot, two workers digging for sand to be used as landfill uncovered 20 Indigenous skeletons and numerous stunning artifacts from the famous lost city. Dawson published his findings, and many were quick to pronounce his conclusions correct, so as to satisfy the intrigue surrounding Hochelaga's mysterious disappearance. The area has since been known as the Dawson Site, Montreal's first archaeological dig. In 1920, a commemorative plaque was erected on a boulder christened the Hochelaga Stone near the main entrance of McGill University. Since those days, Indigenous artifacts have continued to appear during roadwork. For example, during work from 2016 to 2017, a discovery was made at Sherbrooke and Peel Streets, well outside the area of the original Dawson Site. Archaeologists found thousands of artifacts and evidence of the lost city, including pottery, the tooth of a beluga whale, and the grave of a young adult. Based on various archaeological findings, amateur historians Ian Barrett and Robert J. Galbraith believe that the lost city extended at least from University Street on the east to Mount Royal on the north, south to cornfields covering Dominion Square, and west to Fort Street and maybe even beyond. However, due to the forces of urbanization that have disturbed so much of the city's remnants, nobody really knows how large the lost city lying under downtown Montreal actually is. There is another current of thought that Hochelaga was not located where the downtown core exists today. The theory suggests that Jacques Cartier went around the other side of the island, thus placing Hochelaga anywhere from Outremont to La Fontaine Park to Laval. For the city of Montreal's 375th anniversary, the Hochelaga project was launched at the University of Montreal to search for the mystical village. In addition to the strange idea that the lost city is still undiscovered, despite there being ample evidence that it was located where the downtown core is today, another very important point of contention is who the original inhabitants were. Scholars such as James F. Pendergrast, Bruce G. Trigger, and Roland Tremblay have long argued that a distinct group of Indigenous people called the St. Lawrence Iroquoians existed in the river valley and then suddenly vanished without explanation. In 2006, the Pointe-à-Callier Montreal Archaeology and History Complex hosted an exhibition about the lost tribe of St. Lawrence Iroquoians, complete with pottery shards, dog bones, and other artifacts. Entitled The St. Lawrence Iroquoians Corn People, the exhibition posited that the St. Lawrence Iroquoians existed on Montreal Island at the time of Jacques Cartier's visit in 1535, but mysteriously disappeared shortly thereafter at some point before the arrival of Samuel de Champlain in 1603. Historians, elders, and activists of the Kanien'kehá:ka First Nation disagree with this theory and argue that it was created to justify the colonization of their traditional ancestral land. There are also, of course, theories that the site is paranormal. In Macabre Montreal, authors Mark Leslie and Shana Krishnasamy devote a whole chapter to the Dawson site called The Missing Village of Hochelaga. If you happen to get a hold of the book, it is on pages 146 to 148. And after examining all the theories put forward by academics with Eurocentric perspectives, the authors hypothesize that Hochelaga may have never existed at all as a real village. They speculate that it may have been a ghost village, even when Cartier landed there, already long destroyed, inhabited by specters so convincingly real that Cartier could not tell the difference. Did explorers feast with the dead on a fateful voyage in 1535? Ask the authors, concluding, "We may never truly know." To add to the creepy factor, there's a chiseled stone skull that stares down from the facade of the abandoned University Club on Mansfield Street. Its hollow sockets seem to stare directly onto the site of the buried Indigenous city. The University Club of Montreal was founded in 1906 as a private old boys club for a group of the professional and academic elite. In 1913, the organization had its clubhouse built on Mansfield Street, located on part of the Dawson Site. The gracious limestone and brick building was designed by Percy Erskine Nobbs, an influential architect trained in the arts and crafts movement and known for exquisitely crafted buildings designed on an intimate human scale. Over the years, the University Club hosted the city's elite, from business magnates to prime ministers. In 2016, the clubhouse was abandoned and sold because the building required major renovations and the cost of maintaining it was seen as just too high. One must wonder why the architect included a skull in the facade of such a prestigious club. The most common symbolic use of the skull is as a representation of death, mortality, and evil. It is also a symbol of the Illuminati and is used by the infamous Skull and Bones secret society at Yale University. Was architect Percy Erskine Nobbs involved in the Illuminati? Or did a higher-up in the University Club request the macabre decoration? Perhaps it was meant to represent the Hochelaga skull, discovered on the same site. In conclusion, it is puzzling that some historians and archaeologists continue to squabble about the presumed location of Hochelaga and whether or not the island was unceded Mohawk territory. Mohawk elders and historians know the truth. Montreal exists on the unceded Ganyankehaga territory of Tiohtià:ke. Furthermore, given all the archaeological evidence, it seems fairly obvious that the lost city of Haute-Siracan lies mere inches below downtown Montreal. Whatever the case, whether due to its dark history or its paranormal energy, the remnants of this lost Indigenous city will continue to haunt these dialogues as the truth is revealed, layer by layer and spirit by spirit, for society to reflect upon. Are you a Montreal resident or perhaps a tourist who has encountered something strange around the Dawson site? If so, we would love to know. As always, we want to hear your theories on what could be happening. Thank you so much for stopping by. If this is your first video, we do hope you'll stick around for the next one. We put new videos out every second Saturday of the month. If you'd like to learn more about the organization founded by the talented Donovan King, it's all listed in the description down below, along with links to purchase tickets to in-person haunted storytelling experiences. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. We'll have a new video out for you in a couple weeks, but until then, stay spooky.